Big one last time around for Big Finance Friday, and got some great advice from the team, our audience as well, on just how we can reformat these monthly finance pieces to maybe go over some of the trouble spots in the individually, but also giving like a more general overview of where we're at as an organization, from a high level. So we're going to bring back probably a new reporting structure for that for next Big Finance Friday, which will be the second week in September. So looking forward to that. The other thing I think I'm going to start bringing to these Friday Finance Committee meetings is some discussion of sort of the one-year capital plan. We're about to go back into a bonding cycle with the main bond bank in October, and we talked during the budget cycle. There were a few things that we didn't do, especially in roads and some other things that we wanted to keep off, like the one-year tax rolls, because there was already a tax increase. But what are like the bigger ticket items that have been left behind for a while, especially in our roads category? So we need to, we've been working behind the scenes on some plans for that. The biggest piece is roads, but there's other things like digital infrastructure, upgrades to some of the facilities, Pump House Point, which is a depreciating asset that used to be where our water department was, and now we're spending $75K a year on a rent, a lease agreement. So, how do we potentially reinvest that into Pump House Point, and some other things that I think really require a lot more council advice as we get into that next part of the capital plan. So that's kind of it for me. I know we have our team here to talk a little bit more about a tax stabilization program for our seniors that I want to get to, but I'll send it over to Nate before we send it to Janet and Larry.
Okay. This week we finally finalized the 23 audit. We got that this week, and the goal is to have that up on the website. I was just talking to the gentleman in the audience. That should be on the website first of next week, once Nate from IT gets back. But obviously the plans now are we got to go full forward into getting 24's audit ready to go. And the auditors obviously already sent the stuff out, what we need to do. But our main goal right now is obviously catching up our accounts, making sure, because we had Munis the first part of the year, and then we switched over to Cassell in February. So the whole team, myself, Ashley, and then we got Deb and Leah, the whole goal is to make sure 24, all the transactions are entered correctly, good to go. So when we do send all that stuff off to the auditing team, it's not a lengthy process. That's the goal. Make sure everything's accounted for properly. So that's been our goal, obviously, is to get ourselves ready to go for 24. And that's going to be our focus, is because we don't want to process like this again. So get reconciled, and be good to go. So that's where we're at right now. That's our focus, and that's where we're going to keep going. So that's about all I got, because that's been this week. So, oh yeah, absolutely.
Do you have a sense of timing for the audit, or is that too?
Well, and that's what as far as like when they should be finished, or that's what I actually, Charlie had mentioned, maybe we should reach out and kind of set a deadline. I said, well, the first goal is obviously we need to make sure our accounts are up to date. So once I have that all done and send that, I would think, and obviously Tammy probably knows best working in the past, it shouldn't take more than, 4 or 6 weeks once you send them all the stuff that they need. I mean, at least my work in the past with auditors, it shouldn't take that long if you have everything that you need to do first. So, like I said, I'm hoping, we're obviously mid-August right now. I'd hope by the first couple weeks of September, we have all of our accounts situated ourselves and we can send the stuff. So I'd like to think I'll set a goal myself. I'd like to say by November 1st, we're good with 24. That's going to be my goal. So
That
that's
would be
what
ideal, because that's kind of,
Yeah.
before the end of the
Exactly.
calendar year has always been kind of a goal too, so.
Yeah. But I don't want to send them stuff until obviously we have, like I said, all of our accounts. And honestly, what we have working against us, well, there's two things. One, obviously, all of us are very new to the city, but we also have Munis from July till the end of January, and then we switched to Cassell. So right now, like what I was doing yesterday is, okay, let me make sure that once I go back to February 1st in Cassell, okay, did I see the transactions in January in Munis? And then obviously we got to extract those. We got to make sure we have a journal entry to put those into Cassell. So that's kind of where we're at right now. But I'm going to say November 1st is my goal. So,
Yeah, and I'm a big believer in, set a deadline, and that kind of can drive people to get towards it. We're, talked to our attorney about, I haven't signed the next year's contract with the auditor. We are likely, we're in a 5-year cycle to go with them. I think I'm feeling comfortable that let's finish out the cycle with the auditor, but had our lawyer review it, because before I sign things, I usually like to make sure that and that was one request from the lawyer was, this looks good. You might want to try and see if you can get a deadline on this piece. So we are going to reach
Yeah.
out to RHR and maybe Tammy, knowing that, like, let's do end of year. That as long as obviously our stuff's in order, that, we would hope the auditor can make that happen, so.
yeah. And Ashley, and like I said, the whole team's been great. Ashley's out today, but like just having that backup and having, we're tackling things together, like, all right, you're working on this account, I'm working on this account, and I feel like it's working very smooth right now. That's why I feel like very confident that November 1st we can have it done, so.
Yeah, and we're, the finance team and myself are going to Bucksport next week
Yes.
to talk to Susan Lassard, who's kind of Maine's expert, and the close is not good enough in finance category. So we're bringing her our plan. I know there was some audit findings.
She's the Bucksport Tammy.
Yeah, Bucksport Tammy. There were some audit findings, I think in most part relevant. It's a 2023 audit, so it's looking at a lot of things that need to be addressed. Before we got here, I think we've addressed a good bulk of those already. But having some outside experts kind of hold our feet to the fire and make sure our plan's in order, I think is going to be really helpful. So looking forward to that next week.
Yeah.
Hopeful that Susan's just going to be, you guys are doing great. Excellent. But if we're not, and we need to adjust, and we need to, figure out additional people power on how we get reconciled, how we get all our accounts in order for the audit, how we make sure that our policies and procedures, as we talked about. I know Leah has been working on that.
Oh, yeah. Excellent. She's great.
Yeah, really, really helpful. So, I don't know, just going into the finance department now it's an entirely different world than when I arrived April 1st. So I'm really excited about
And
this.
Thursday and Friday next week, just so you know, I'll be actually in Augusta for the governmental accounting training.
Ooh, fun
so-
times.
I actually am really excited. I'm
Yeah.
looking forward to it. So, Ashley will be here next Friday, but yeah, I'm excited. So,
Almost as fun as my Wednesday
Yeah.
with our police department checking out the body cams. I know I'm not supposed to go too off book on finance, although it's somewhat relative. Really excited about that, deploying that system in, I think November is our general time frame. But as part of our digital infrastructure, there's also a software they offer. I'm going to start working on pricing, but that handles like crisis, emergency, fix-it tickets. Chicago uses it for, it's basically an online app that kind of centralizes all your, if you, cooling center, here's where it's at, here's where information is. And, if you've got a fix-it ticket problem, if there's a massive emergency, the kind of stuff our police, when there's there's a crime or something, and they have to go door to door and try and grab people's cameras and, and get the, SD drives to upload them, this and that. This is the type of thing. If you want to report a crime and you want to upload it to our system, use this app. It can some really interesting things in the tech space, and has gotten me thinking a lot about our digital infrastructure in addition to our actual hard infrastructure. So, yeah.
that's all I got.
And they won't let me go out on these anymore because I come back with 40 new action items for the team.
That's not invited.
Larry, Jenny, want to talk about the tax stabilization program?
Good morning. Good Friday morning. As everyone is probably aware, the stabilization program last year that froze.
Michelle, can you hear?
No, I can't.
Maybe we'll put her.
Sorry.
Oh, no, that's okay.
We're improving here, just a moment.
You're moving.
High tech. High-tech Michelle with Tammy's phone.
Oh, sure, bust it up, Steve.
You can probably hear me better than they can now. I've got Tammy's phone right under my head. Last year, seniors over 65 and who had owned a property for at least 10 years were allowed to be enrolled in the stabilization program, which froze their tax bill. So last year, when everyone else's tax bill went up 18% on average, their tax bill was froze to the bill that they had received the prior year. So they didn't receive an increase at all. But then the stabilization program was repealed. The state didn't have the money to pay for that. There were other problems with that program too, like for instance, if you built an addition to your house, how would that change, or would it? And it really wasn't settled. It wasn't part of the law as to how you would treat something like that. So anyway, the stabilization program was repealed, but you can imagine if you're 65 and older, you've owned for 10 years, and you're gonna get a frozen tax bill for the rest of your life, you gotta sign up for it. Even though you think it's too good to be true, you just have to sign up for it. And a lot did. We had 620 seniors that enrolled for that. But now, since it's been repealed, that tax bill difference compared to everyone else's tax bill this year is going to increase probably over 30% in 1 year compared to their frozen tax bill of last year, which was predicated on the bill they received the year before. So all the seniors in the stabilization program will receive, it's going to be over 30% in 1 year when we get the bills out. Everyone else, I think I'm looking at, it's definitely going to be over 10% for everyone else, but we're looking at 3 times what everybody else's increase is going to be in this year's tax bill. And I contacted Maine Municipal Association to ask them if, I'm thinking there's got to be something that we can do. And there's options. The city itself could have its own stabilization program, but there would be no reimbursement from the state. and so that I don't know, that's probably not something, I don't know of any town or city that is doing their own stabilization program. What I'm suggesting, and what MMA informed me that towns do, is called a tax club, where you basically just agree to allow a taxpayer to pay over time, and for this particular situation with the stabilization seniors getting over a 30% increase, I thought, it might be a good idea to allow those stabilized, or they were stabilized, tax bills. Now it's going to be a 30% increase, to allow them to pay over time without getting hit with the interest they would typically get if they don't meet the first half payment. And then if they still don't have it paid off by the second due date, to let that interest not accrue until, I think we thought around June, early June, because there is a lien process that if you're not paying your tax at all, we still have to go through the lien process. So that's what my proposal is to basically waive the interest for this fiscal year, and so that they have the flexibility to pay this higher tax bill without meeting the first half deadline date to pay it all off, at least the first half anyway. And then the second half as well, though, if they still need more time to pay that off. Questions?
And actually, just know, we're going to be talking, about this on Monday at the council meeting. It's an agenda item, but we figured we'd kick the tires on it a bit during this meeting. If there's a full memo on this. There is a sort of liability with this, right? Which is, if all 620 took advantage of this program, we could be, down, I think, what, it was 2 million, around 2 million was the total liability.
With value.
Yeah, over, however, I think most people's mortgages kind of include their taxes in there. I don't think we'd expect that to be the full group that would come in. But this has never been done before, so I can't say what it will or won't be in terms of cash management. It's within our sort of TAN totals, so I'm comfortable with moving forward, knowing that we're not going to be necessarily putting an enormous amount of stress. But that's, I think, the biggest risk with the program.
There certainly, it's the consideration is definitely, this is just for the stabilization folks. The towns do have the ability to have a tax club to make monthly payments over time for anyone, for all the taxpayers. We currently don't have a regular tax club. This will be our first one, and it's just for the stabilization seniors. But tax clubs have been around, just a lot of small towns use them.
And functionally, Larry, ideally, I think next week we'd send out a mailer with, these 620 folks would get it, and they'd have to come in, basically apply for it or put themselves in. Then the tax team would put a note on their bill, just, don't accrue the interest, so that, and when they come in and pay, they can kind of figure it out. But that's. I think
Does the software handle tax club?
Well, the Trio system that we now have, it does have a tax club module, but it's set up a standard. Their standard setup is really not good for this one, because what the module, Trio module does, it sets it up into monthly payments, and if you don't make a monthly payment, bam, you're out. And then you get hit with all the interest. So it is going to be a chore for the tax collector, Susan, to really focus on this and set it up so that it's not something that triggers
Gotcha.
an additional interest.
Yeah, so I'll come up here so Michelle can hear me. We met on Monday as a staff team just to kind of workshop this, and Sue and Nate B from IT felt comfortable that they could make, in Trio, there's like a notes and comments section. And so, we'd send this out to 600 and I think there's actually 622 individuals. So we would send this out. So we don't know how many people would say that they actually want to be in it, but we're thinking not all 622 are going to apply. However, even if they did, we would have the capacity to go in, create a comment in that comment field that says, within the let's just say it says, within the stabilization program, so that when you come in with your tax bill to pay your tax bill, the first thing that pops up on the screen is that notification. And so they will know, that, I mean, we're also allowing the people, so like, if you could only pay $200 that month on your tax bill, that interest will be waived every single time you come in through the door to make that one. You could make 700 payments in one fiscal year in order to clear off the deck, right? So every single time you came in to make that payment, it would pop up on the screen that your interest is to be waived. And so every clerk will know. You know, I don't use Trio, I'm not a Trio user, but from my understanding, it's populating that field, allowing it to pop up on the screen so that everyone knows when they're capturing the tax revenue.
Excellent.
And Sue would have liked to finish, she's on a previously scheduled vacation, so.
Michelle's talking.
Yes,
She
hi,
points down.
Michelle. Hi.
Hey, so, I mean, could it be something as simple as if they sign up for this, that, they make their payments, we just waive all interest at the end by the time the lien notices go out?
That's essentially what we're gonna do.
Yeah,
It ju-
Is that what you're talking about?
Yes.
You don't have to waive the interest every payment, but
Right, but so like every time they come in, whoever's taking the tax, they will more than likely be Sue, will know that that interest is to be waived in the end. So yes, it is a final process. In fact, we looked to see if Trio in the tax club module could allow you to modify the payment schedule so that it would be yearly instead of monthly, so that people didn't get kicked out like Larry was talking about, but it doesn't have that lovely flexibility like a lot of computer software programs. But yeah, that would be the ideal way of working with it. Oops,
we just lost her.
clearly she didn't like my answer,
No.
she hung up.
All right, this is gonna be a spicy meeting on Monday,
Outrageous.
I can already tell. She's
Should I
hanging
call her
up.
back?
Yeah.
Okay,
Wow.
oops, speaker, there we go.
Tell me how you really feel.
sorry, it dropped.
That's okay. I was like, oh, you didn't like that answer.
I'm sorry, this is a pain in the neck, I apologize.
It's okay.
You know what, can I just, either Charlie or Tammy or someone, I'll just give you a call after you're done and you
Yeah,
can explain to me.
sure, sure.
Okay, be safe, Michelle, bye.
I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
Bye.
But the answer to your question is yes, that's essentially what would happen.
So it sounds like financially through the TAN, we can cover,
Thank you.
you know, the delay in payment for the year.
Yeah, the total liability would be within the, the TAN range, so,
Yeah,
I don't expect that, but it's hard, I've never modeled something like this before. I don't know if anybody has, and sort of, it's a new stabilization program, they pulled it. My expectation is that most people have this run through their mortgage and they're not, when it was a tax break, they all came in to be like, yeah, we gotta get it. When it's, hey, we're gonna waive the interest and this, my assumption is that most people will just float and this would not be a very large liability, but for those who really need it, they'd be able to avoid it. But Tammy, you seem,
No, it's, so you were saying there's only $2 million worth of assessment for all of the properties?
622.
No.
Oh, because I was like, oh, that's not very
I'm
much.
sorry, it was the tax.
Oh, 2 million in
Taxes,
taxes. Oh,
yeah.
okay,
So,
revenue, okay.
if you're in
I
that-
thought you said valuation, I was
I
like.
did, and I bet,
Okay, phew.
yeah.
I was like,
I
that's
just-
only like 36,000 in taxes, so I'm like, we probably could help,
Yeah,
But
yes.
that doesn't seem right to me, so, okay.
yeah, so
good.
it's 2 million in payments
Yeah,
for
that's-
that
okay.
group. So if they all decided I'm not coming in until June to pay my taxes because there's no interest on it, and that's, in some ways, if you're a penny pincher, Steve would probably be in this category. Like, I'm gonna save that $322 on that interest. You ain't getting that money from me until June 1.
but now some of them obviously might just pay it monthly.
Yeah, or it's in
Plus-
your bank
yeah.
mortgage, and
Plus-
that's just gonna come out, and you're not gonna go through the hassle of calling your bank and telling them they want to do this. Like, just, I want to be done with my taxes.
And the state does have that deferment program, where if a person cannot pay their property tax and wish the state to pay their property tax, it's sort of like a reverse mortgage. The state will, their entire tax bill. But then when they sell or they're no longer the property owner, they have to be a resident, they have to have the homestead exemption. If they're no longer there, then all that money needs to be paid back that the state paid their property tax for, plus interest. We have 2 this year that have signed up for the deferment program. You also have, in every year, you have the hardship abatement for people who come into hardship where they can't afford to pay their property tax, and the city council can abate the property tax.
And can we send that out in the letter too, just a little bit of notification on those other
Yeah,
options?
yeah.
Yeah.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay. Good. Just to clarify for the records, the state program existed for 1 year, 2 years?
Just one.
Just one, okay. And I have more questions than answers, as usual.
Yes.
But you say there's 622 that signed up for that exemption from the state, and apparently there's another plan, but it comes with liens on their property from the state.
Deferment program.
I guess my question would be, is there a way, or is there a consideration that this offer could be made to all seniors 65 or older in the city of Ellsworth, as opposed to just the ones that signed up? Like you said, some people aren't going to, a lot of people are gonna pay their bills, some are gonna struggle. But I would hate to allow Joe and Frank that live side by side, one signed up so he doesn't have interest, and Frank didn't sign up.
Yeah, I totally appreciate and agree that one of the things about a regular tax club is that you have to apply. And your application warns you that if you don't meet this contract of paying your monthly payments, you're out of the program. I would wish we could set it up so it is automatic for every one of those stabilized seniors, where they don't have to sign up for this. It just automatically, if you know, we have the record of, we know the accounts that were stabilized. There's not going to be more of them. The programs are built. But yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah, so the state statute that Larry, it's the MMA person had sent around in the memo, the state statute that allows the city council to vote on creating a tax club. You'll see in the memo, they said that the municipality has broad authority. Essentially, you can set up a tax club with the parameters that you feel justified to set up. So if this council, you have to have a justification though. So you can't just say tax club for all, because that would be really fun. Like, there needs to be some sort of a parameter there that we're creating this tax club, perhaps it's for seniors 65 plus because X, Y, and Z. You should really, like, in the motion, and I'm looking at Patrick because he's my legal guy, but like in the motion, you should say why this tax club, the purpose of it, or the justification behind why you're setting it up. And so for us, when we were thinking about this tax club, the justification was the fact that you have these seniors who are 65 older, who are in this program, who are now being hit with, like Larry said, almost a 33% increase in 1 year versus somebody who wasn't in the program who has a 12% increase. That was in our mind, if you were to make a motion, that's the justification behind it. But there's nothing saying that you can't justify why a senior 65 plus who may be on a fixed income, et cetera, needs more time to pay their tax bill. It's just about you all making that decision collectively as a council, and to stand behind that, because, you know, then you go out there and they're like, well, and this is one of the things we put in the memo, is there's an equity piece to this, right? You're always gonna have somebody, even Nate from IT, who is like, well, why don't I get that tax break? You know, I have these problems in my household. So I think you'll always get somebody who's gonna say, why does this not apply to me? But for us, there was a very significant reason why those in that stabilization club, above all other residents, deserved a little bit more leniency here. So that's why that was proposed, but it's not to say that you can't extend that out further.
And Steve, let me, maybe we'll do the math for Monday's meeting on like what that total liability
Yeah.
was if we were to extend it further. I think my issue with that, you know, could be that the liability would increase, and
The cash flow.
yeah, the cash flow piece. The other side of it is like, now you're getting into a policy, you know, is it just long-term, that if you're 65 and over, we're not gonna hit you with tax or with, interest moving forward? Because this is really, to your point, Jana and Larry, is like, for those specific people that were in that program that are gonna see a really big increase, you know, that this is, it's not a,
But they enjoyed a very big savings, too.
Right.
yeah.
So,
Right.
and I just wonder that, just fairness for all in some group is where my mind is
Right.
going, if it exists.
Right.
You know, they've enjoyed a reprieve for a year, and maybe there's, you know, the income thing or something to qualify that. I'd just like to have some balance and fairness across the board. Doesn't mean everyone's going to take advantage of it. The other thing that I had written down here in this conversation is this a time in this situation, and it can't happen immediately, where we start looking at nonprofits to contribute something? There are many nonprofits that could contribute, and would that offset some of that? If, you know, a pilot program or whatever it is, I'm not experienced at that, and I understand at one point there was some chatter about that in Ellsworth. But
Yeah, I don't know
whether
if,
it ever
I don't think we
happened.
legally can, unless they change state law.
I
Items are
did send
options.
letters a few years just asking, you know, here's all the benefits that you receive from the city. Could you please consider a pilot program? And so,
It's
J-
Jackson Lab, does the hospital pay a pilot, or is it just Jackson Lab? Do you know?
I think we,
and Jackson Lab isn't, they consider it like a contribution,
Right.
not
Well,
a pilot.
whatever you
And
wanna call it.
But yeah, do you know what we budget for that? It used to be like 30 grand.
I was gonna say, I think,
maybe?
I wanna say it's 40 now.
Okay.
Yeah, I actually just saw it just the other day. I think it's 40. I don't remember.
Larry, can we
It might be
do the
30.
total
It might be
liability?
30.
I mean,
It
there
might
are
be
some
30,
that
yeah.
are faithful in
Yeah.
providing
Mhm.
us.
Do we know how many households are 65 plus through TRIO? That's the problem.
And just maybe it's just a general, just for council's edification too, just like what, we have a lot of nonprofits here and what that, you know,
Oh.
yeah.
For the nonprofit piece.
For the
sorry.
nonprofit piece, it's kind of separate to but to your point, just so we, like, yeah, this thing you sent out, Tammy, I'm just curious as to what, hey, like how much of a hit are we taking every year in additional taxes?
Significant.
Is it 500, is it a million? I don't know if you can do that, Larry, but that would just be interesting to kind of, not that we have the authority to do it, but at least we, to your point, we can at least just show, like, you know, Ellsworth as a service center, that's just another thing. We have a lot of nonprofits here. And,
Can we ask? Can there be an offset, I guess is my question.
Yeah, I think the the effort to at least ask should be something we do on a regular basis. There's new nonprofits being built or coming into town all the time. And if there is something that one of these or a few of these can assist with in payment in lieu of taxes, that would help the community.
Yeah, or like if you'd like to join a pilot program, maybe it works, maybe it
Yeah, I'm
doesn't.
not saying force anybody, I'm saying
can.
let's make a focus on, it may bring in a little bit of offset.
Yeah.
Especially, you know, a
Like,
lot of the
yeah.
non,
I think I read, this is years ago, but I think I read Boston did something where they basically figured what the city considered a prorated share of the tax rate just for the services that's provided to everyone, not nonprofits included. And I think I remember reading where it was almost like, here's what we would request that you pay based on a percentage and I really don't remember, I don't think it was a successful program, but I think they were able to get more people to assist, more of the nonprofits, but it certainly wasn't. And it couldn't be an enforcement thing where you have to pay this or you're no longer going to get any services from us. But yeah, it was a request, and you could not
Yeah, it's
pay a little
interesting.
tax or
and,
pay something.
and some, you know, like you said, if you, this is what your tax bill would have been, would you consider making some sort of a donation for the services? I think we'd be surprised. And it may not be, you know, there may be a nonprofit that says, you know, we don't have resources to contribute, but we have something that we could offer. Maybe cleaning up a street one spring or something like that. I don't know, but something to contribute. You know, it doesn't always have to be money. It would be nice if it was, but
Some in kind.
yeah, some sort of.
Just so that
you know,
they
we-
know,
we-
too,
We can't
like-
send you $4,000, but we can, I don't know, change the oil in all the vehicles for Ellsworth, or whatever. You know, I realize that's a poor example, but
Yeah.
something. You'd be surprised, I bet.
Maine Community Foundation just built that lovely new addition, and they let us utilize their conference room meeting space if we need additional meeting space. I see that as a contribution
Right.
to the city.
Right. So there
we
could
used
be.
it, It's beautiful.
Yeah, we've
give
talked
us
about
highlights.
Woodlawn and kind
Thank
of
you.
their
Okay.
piece. I also hate to, it's a difficult game because you also hate to be like, hey, we're giving you a tax break, let us use all your free services. But, you know, a tax break and a cash voucher is the same thing from the city financial point of view, right? If we were to, not that we have the authority, but if all those tax revenues came in, we could take those tax revenues and give them as cash vouchers for housing. Financially, that would have the same impact. So having a total idea what that liability, and I like your idea, Steve, on, I know that the budget process, I wish I had more time, like we focus on the tax side of things and income coming in and just how we're going to pay for expenses, but there's all these other revenue areas that I think we could be a little more interested in.
If we get everyone pulling the wagon, it rolls easy.
Yeah, I mean, think about, now that I have an electric car, there's a free electric station over there. You know, it's oftentimes, and it makes me feel a little bad because, you know, I'm the city manager here, so it's like, it almost is feeling like it's the city that pays for that electric. Could we put a little sign up there? There's one in Castine, actually, that it's just, hey, go to this website, if you use this, you know, and contribute $10, and it'll go to beautification or something. Like, can we think of revenues in that way? The other thing I've been thinking, you know, it actually was, we talked about it with, at the, one of the many ideas that came from the police, like text systems and license plate readers, and this, it was, I guess there used to be some more parking enforcement in Ellsworth, and there used to be somebody here that used to like mark people's tires. I guess the Supreme Court invalidated that. You're no longer allowed to mark. It's like, I think the Supreme Court has better things to do than that, but so that we can't do that anymore. We've stopped that. But should we bring, and, you know, Bar Harbor is pulling in $3 million a year, I think, in parking. And, you know, and we've got a lot of service that comes through here. You know, should we start, I didn't know if you all had high opposition for the council or to the parking idea. I know it had been considered in the past, and, you know, can we consider that in revenues? I'm not saying we'll do it, but I might start looking into what that would be for us. Can we look into the revenue piece to start offsetting just Mr. and Mrs. Ellsworth to your point, Steve? Like, just saying, like, okay, we have expenses and we're gonna put it here on this. Like, how do we think creatively about our revenue streams too, in the same way a business would, to offset a lot of like our, you know, our growing expenses, so.
I think this is a good conversation, and I think it's something we should pursue and have, you know, continue. As far as the tax club for the folks that were in the stabilization program, I think it makes sense. You know, they are, you know, they're in a unique situation where they got the rug pulled out from under them by the state, and we have the means to help kind of soften that landing. So and it seems like, but this, you know, and I think Steve raises a good point, but maybe this year it would be a good opportunity to see how this tax club works, and then if it's something where we start, and if it seems like it's feasible, then maybe there's other opportunities, Steve, for like if there's seniors that have a certain income level or something where we can offer this tax club moving forward for folks that are in situations that would benefit from it.
I love that idea. Once we have like the model for how many people would, then maybe we could, it's, okay, this is only gonna be $300,000 to over the full year. Maybe we broaden it to, you know, anybody who would have a hardship that they could apply to be in this, knowing that not a huge uptick. Or if it's all, everybody waits that full 2 minutes, like, yeah, we're not broadening this program.
Yeah.
That was a one-time thing.
That's my concern.
We use the TAN to cover it and like, you know,
Yeah.
and no further.
Like, to that point too, you know, we know through the stabilization program who those 622 households are. I was just thinking in my head, like, how are we gonna figure out, you know, we'd have to open up this application process to everybody in Ellsworth who is 65 plus, perhaps makes under a certain household income or something like that, and figure out a process for how we would go through that application process, which the tax bill literally is going out in like a month, and I don't think we, if this council was looking to do something like that for next tax year, we would probably wanna send an application out in like, once the budget's passed, let's say, and open that up so that we'd have more time to collect information. Right now, we only would have like less than a month to be able to do that, and that doesn't give us a lot of time.
When are the tax bills going
Or
It
out?
should be
sorry,
next
they're
week.
going out next week.
Okay,
No,
so I was
they're
like-
doing it.
Oh,
Trust-
I was like,
Trust me, they're, yeah.
we're gonna need more.
Jamie's like, we're gonna have, now we're gonna have a different conversation.
So yeah, we wouldn't have a lot of time to collect that information. And honestly, we're coming to you on Monday. The tax bill goes out maybe like the next day type thing, yeah.
Well, again, to that point, with the stabilization was for the seniors over 65. There was no income consideration in that tax law. When it was repealed, immediately you heard rumors all over about the state lawmakers thinking, you know, let's try to have a stabilization too, and which they were really considering a stabilization too based on income, but that never worked out, and so we're here where we are. But you know, if they've done it once, if our lawmakers in Augusta did a stabilization program, they can in the future possibly do a stabilization too and make it based on your income and for seniors over 65 who have the homestead exemption. But I look forward to that because I'll be 65 in November.
Larry's playing the
One further.
long game.
One further point about that I just want to throw out is, whatever the decision is made, does it have to be campaigned? So, and I'm not being cruel, but whatever decision is made, couldn't that be happening when someone comes in and questions if there's any help? Does it have to be this big campaign?
Well, there has to be a city council.
Right, but you're talking about.
Approval,
You're talking about the application.
yeah.
Right, does it
So,
have
like,
to be
if
this?
You get your tax bill and it says it's, I don't know, what is the due date, September?
The first one's the 12th of September.
Okay,
I think.
September 12th. And you come in and you know nothing about the, this program that the council may or may not vote on
You
Monday.
didn't read the flyer that's,
I
coming to
think,
you.
Larry, do you have something in Trio that basically says that they were in the we do have something that says they were in the stabilization program.
yes.
So I think if they came in and they're like, I can't pay this, et cetera, I think we could say, oh, look, looks like you qualify to be in this program, let's enroll you now, that type of thing. But we're trying to push to have people apply just so we can populate that field in Trio and make sure that there's some sort of systematic process there. But that's not to say if somebody who didn't hear about it or whatever, and they come in. So I'd like to do the campaign, if you will, but also have like a one-off that comes in and assist them that way.
So they wouldn't disqualify?
No.
All right.
Well, thanks for putting that all together.
Talk more on Monday.
Yeah,
Thanks
so
for,
talk
thanks for
more on
kicking the
Monday.
tires and keep it brief on Monday. We got 22 items.
Yeah,
Third page of-
yeah.
So tell your fellow councilors we've talked about this.
Mr. Williams.
Don't worry.
Here, we got to
I
come.
have one question, which I think, I know what you suggested. Can you do a run of the actual amount? I know Larry says he thinks the tax is 2 million, but I think, can you do a run of what the 600 people total owed, total benefit that they receive, so we can know exactly what it is instead of this? Because I don't know, I think I remember what I did. I haven't gone digging my tax bill out. And I know where I locate, and the whole meeting thing, that there'll be people less than that, and people more. No offense, just doing rough figuring from what I think there could be, although there could be a heck of a lot of higher-end people with high expensive things, houses and stuff, that are getting really big benefits.
Yep.
I'm dubious that 2 million is the figure. I think it might be less, although who knows, it could be bigger, more too, but I think we need to know that figure. And are you also
I have
going
the
to
numbers
cost-
right.
If you have that from me.
I have the numbers right here from Nate. If you want me to read them off, I can.
Yeah, well, if you-
Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
I was gonna go run up and grab it.
Yeah, no, I have it right here. So Nate, IT Nate ran the numbers here. So he has total amount billed to stabilized accounts after stabilization was $2,259,603.04. Total amount that would have been billed to stabilized accounts was $2,665,004.70. And then he wrote average stabilized tax bill amount was $3,638.65. Total accounts was tax stabilization, 621. Accounts that went to the lien process was 24, which was 3.86%. Yeah, Nate ran a lot of numbers here. I can read all. Accounts with an outstanding principal balance of, as of 8/12/24, was 14 or 2.25% billed. Total outstanding principal balance, $19,152.43, or 0.84%. Accounts that paid interest was 90, or 14.49% of the billed. And interest charged and collected was $1,656.58. I know that was a lot, and I can give you those numbers if you like.
Thanks, David.
Was it something I said, Tammy? I'll see.
Yeah, well, you know,
Didn't want to bore you.